Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On this show, it's so fun because I get to talk with deal makers, hear their story, hear their journey, but learn more about deals and how deals are done. So today we're going to be talking about the deals of podcasting and how this industry is growing to actually help grow businesses. So I'm bringing on one of my friends from the frigid north somewhere up there. Elzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Josh. I'm excited to have the conversation.
Yeah, man. All right. So where are you guys located?
So technically, we're in Greater Milwaukee, right? We have one studio that's in Wauwatosa, which is basically Milwaukee, and then where I'm sitting at now is in Brookfield, Wisconsin, which is about 15 minutes west of Milwaukee. So Greater Milwaukee.
What is Milwaukee known for? Kind of give us. I'm in Florida, right? So I have no clue sometimes about other states. What are you guys known for up there?
All right, let me let you in on the secret, Josh. Wisconsin is the city of festivals. Any festival you can think of, Strawberry Festival, the biggest gig in the world, right? With Summerfests, where musicians from all over the world descend on the great city, great state of Wisconsin and do their thing. Um, all types of festivals, chocolate festival, German fest, all festivals from May to October, festival season. Wisconsin is also known for beer. Um, I don't partake as much. I'm dry for various reasons, but however, my compadres they love to partake in adult beverages. Wisconsin is also known for cheese. So those are the top three things, and the home of the 2021 world champion Milwaukee Bucks.
You guys hold on to that as long as you possibly can.
Oh yeah, it took
Um,
us 50 years. So yeah.
right. Hopefully, it's not another 50. So maybe you could see two in your lifetime. So Elsie, where do you put your focus on a day to day basis?
Interestingly enough, more and more as my company continues to grow, I'm focusing on building relationships. I'm focusing on sales. I'm focusing on things like operations, making sure that the company runs whether I'm here or not. We're still in a process, right? It's a process. It's iterative, but more and more, that's where I'm spending my time. On the financial side of the business, making sure we're healthy, we can pay our people, we can pay our bills, those types of things, which is interesting because when I first started this company, I did everything. I went out and got the customer. I took them through the journey. I did the editing. I edited the audio. I put together all the stuff. I did all the stuff. And now, again, as we continue to grow, I am really being intentional about bringing team members on that can basically firing myself systematically is what I'm doing.
Awesome, man. All right. So what do you do and for who? Right? Who are some of your ideal clients, and what do you guys do as a business? I know you have a few different business and missions, so kind of give us an idea of what they are.
Yeah, essentially what we do is we help people build trust, grow influence, and increase authority. We do that through audio and video podcasting, quite simply. Like there's a lot of detail in between those things, but on the surface, at a high level, that's what we do. We help folks build those relationships, establish themselves as authorities in their niche, build out that trust, right? Because people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So we help them create that platform so that they can leverage it to build those deeper relationships.
Super cool. So you have a podcast of your own. I think you have a few. Kind of give a
Yeah.
shout out to the podcast. So my listeners, I want you, anytime one of my guests comes on the show that has a podcast, I want you to go check it out, download, subscribe, give them a raving review. Say you heard them on Josh's show, but give a shout out to some of your shows.
Yeah, and make sure you guys give a raving review, like Josh said. Our flagship show is Enterprise Now. That's the show that kicked everything off. I like to tell people I'm a true to form podcast entrepreneur. Like podcasting is my life. It is how I came into this entrepreneur world. So Enterprise Now was the thing that kind of kicked it off. It's the show where I was at my day job over my lunch break on my mobile recorder doing interviews. this is that show. And we focus on B2B founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. And we approach it three angles. We talk thought leadership, we talk personal mastery, and we talk storytelling. Because those are sort of the three elements that I believe if you do those things well, you're going to win no matter where you are. The other show is called Podcast My Brand. That's my fun show. It's where I get people on and I don't even apologize for it, Josh. I make fun of them. I love to buzz them when they get trivia questions wrong. I love to poke fun at them and just give them a really, really hard time. And that is my fun show. I do it. These are our peers in the industry who also have podcasts, and we just talk. We talk shop. We talk podcasting. We talk how to get better at the craft and things like that.
Super cool. All right. You talked about three elements for a B2B brand to build trust, credibility, authority, leveraging audio, video, media. What were those three elements? I completely couldn't write fast enough.
Yep. So we talk storytelling, we talk personal mastery, and we talk personal mastery, storytelling, and thought leadership.
Okay. What's what do what what do some of those components need to have or not need to have? And could you have one without the other? Could you just be a master and just people flock to you? Like why do you need all three?
Well, partly because it is very difficult to lead somebody somewhere you have never been, right?
Mhm.
And you cannot truly arrive at a place until you understand who you are. And you cannot understand who you are until you've done the work to understand who you are. And so it's very difficult to help someone else build trust if you have not gone on that journey, right? It's
Mhm.
very difficult to leverage trust, to leverage authority, to leverage influence if you don't have a good sense of who you are, why you are, where you've been, where you're going, what makes you tick, what ticks you off, those types of things, right? And then conversely, understanding, okay, now that I've mastered me, and that doesn't mean that you don't still make mistakes. That just means that you understand that you are apt to make mistakes and you can set yourself up in situations to prevent you from making said mistake, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you a real world example. I have a digital personality. I'm an electronics engineering background guy in a former life. I'm recovered now, Josh,
Okay.
but back in the day, I used to deal with ones and zeros. And in digital electronics, there are only two states. It's either a one or it's a zero. It's not in between. There's no gray area. It's a one or a zero. Now, the combination of those ones and zeros give you other things, but suffice it to say, I'm either a one or a zero. I'm all in or I'm all out. I know that about myself. I should never be in anyone's casino because I will gamble away the mortgage,
Right.
right?
Okay.
I will put it all on the table. I know that about me. So I don't gamble. That's why I don't drink. I can't have just one drink. If I'm going to drink, Josh, I'm going to drink. I know that about myself. And so the journey of personal mastery is understanding that and then putting yourself in positions so that you win. How is that related to business? Well, understanding yourself helps you understand others, how they perceive you, how you perceive them. The better you can do that, the better you can pick out, okay, that client would work well with me, or that client, there's no way that we're getting past the first discovery call because our personalities just don't jive, right? So that's what I mean in terms of all those things working together. Thought leadership, understanding that just because Josh has a thought doesn't mean that it applies for me. Again, goes back to personal mastery because I know me, I know myself, and then the personal mastery, thought leadership, and storytelling piece comes in is when you can tell your story effectively, but more importantly, you can listen to the stories of other people, weave in who you are, where you're going, why you're going into their what, why, how, and who, and now you can serve them better because you understand all three of those concepts.
Yeah. Out of those three, storytelling, mastery, thought leadership, which one was the hardest for you?
Oh, personal mastery. Not
E-
even close.
Explain.
Well, Part of the journey is looking at yourself honestly, and it's ugly. it is not
Yep.
it is not a pretty process, right? When you can look at yourself honestly and say, man, I could be a jerk. I could be hard to work with sometimes because I want what I want, how I want, when I want it. And that's not always good to work with for people. I can sometimes be selfish because I get a goal in mind and I go after it and I ignore everything else around. So it is a an eye-opening exercise when you
Yeah.
realize that, oh, I have flaws, right? And
Yeah.
you embrace those flaws and you say, okay, this is who I am. Now, how do I take that and start to take steps to get better? Start to take steps to grow and evolve into a better version of myself. So personal mastery by far the hardest. Like I can tell you a story all day long, right? Of of who I am, where I am, why I am, right? That's not nearly as difficult as me looking in the mirror and say, okay, this is who you are, and this is how you're perceived. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times, who we think we are, who we project, or sometimes who we pretend to be, is not how people perceive us. And so, part of that work is really understanding. Here's what I think people see versus what people actually see. And that's hard work.
That is hard work. And when it comes to projection, like this is what I want the world to see who Josh is, right? That's what I'm trying to do as my brand identity when we're talking about marketing and sales and in media. We're going, this is who I want the world to see Josh is. This is my projected brand. Now there's the perceived brand of what the world actually goes, hey, that's who Josh is. When it's done well, they should align. When it's not done well, what happens? And you've worked with hundreds of B2B brands. And, what have you found when you're starting to work with someone when the projection and the perception do not align?
I think the first step is always is the listening aspect, right? We talked about storytelling. It's much more than being able to tell your story; it's being able to listen. So step one is knowing what that gap is. Okay, if I'm presenting myself as the mayor of Podcast Town, that's how I should show up. I preside, I connect, I help people get what they need. If somebody needs to be connected, they call the mayor because he is connecting people. You see what I'm saying? And so the reason I know that that's in alignment is because I didn't give myself that nickname. Somebody else gave me that name. They said, Elzie, the way you show up, right? Consistently over time, the way you help people, the way you do what you do, the passion, the focus, the zeal, right? The essence of who you are. I'm going to call you the mayor. You're the mayor of Podcast Town. And boom, I know that it's in alignment because that's what I put out there, right? When I'm extending my hand, it's not to get, it's to give, right? And when you start hearing that alignment, you know you're on the right track. When you don't hear that alignment, either the perception is off because that's not always up to you how people perceive you. It could be a wrong perception. The key is understanding it, embracing it, and embodying it. Doesn't mean that it has to match necessarily. You just need to be aware of it.
Yeah. Now, you primarily work with B2B brands. What is B2B? For people listening and they have no clue what it means, what does that mean?
Well, Josh, I like to take things and make them my own, right? That's the thought leadership part. Most people will say that means business to business. I say it means brand to brand. Because whether you are a high achieving executive or you're a podcast host that's just starting out, you, my friend, are a brand, whether you like it or not. Every company picnic you show up at, every if you're a podcast host, every time you hit record, you're on that video, you are a brand. When you show up late, when you're not prepared, when your sound and audios, all of that is contributing to your brand. So B2B for me means brand to brand. So a lot of our clients are brands who want to leverage the audio and video aspects of their media company because believe it or not, when you start a podcast, you are now a media company. We help them kind of understand that and to build that brand out.
Yeah.
So to answer your actual question, for me, it means brand to brand.
Yeah. I've never thought of it that way, right? So in marketing school or when I worked in research, it was business to business and it was very transactional. And I like B2B because I just seem to fit better with serving business leaders, other investors. So I spend a lot of my time not focusing on B2C, the consumer, but other businesses. I seem to get along better. Now, you talk about like knowing your brand, the projection and the perception of the people perceiving it. Those are your people, right? You're trying to attract the right kind of people. How do you know who your people are?
Again, this goes back to that personal mastery piece, right? You have to know what brings you joy. If I know that I have a call with a potential resident, we call our clients residents, and I don't get excited about it and it drains my energy, then there's misalignment. I missed something in the onboarding process and the discovery process, in the farming process. I'm a farmer. Something was off. We missed it. But if I see your name on the calendar and I go, okay, today I get to talk to Josh, there's alignment, right? So I'm big in this season of my life. I'm really big on joy. If things do not bring me joy, I do not do them. Period. And seasons change. This time next year, season might be different. And so again, not to beat a dead horse, but going back to that personal mastery piece, I know that I have to be very intentional about realizing what season it is. And so to your question, you have to have alignment in who you are, your person, your joy, because you're only going to maximize your output when you have that joy. So you really have to understand that alignment piece, and those are the people you want to attract. You want to attract joy into your life and into your business.
So I spent a lot of time. Just this is recent. I'm 40 years old, and I'm learning who I am at a deeper level. Because like making the way through life, being a deal guy. Like who are your ideal clients? People with money and wanting to spend it now, right? I'm learning as I get older this piece of energy, right? And I used to think that that was like woo woo until I started looking at the energy that I had when I showed up around different people, right? And I'm like, holy moly, there's something here I got to pay attention to. And then the joy that I have from working with certain people over other people, right? Now, when did this start to become relevant to you where you said I got to start focusing on my joy because I need to show up my greatest self? When did that start happening in your world?
Relatively recently, I think there's something magical about the age 35 to 40. I'm 40 now, that you start to realize that time, it starts to multiply, right? I remember when my daughter, she's 15 now. Literally remember when she was small enough I could hold her in my hand. And you start to realize that, man, time literally flies. And I do not want to waste time. And I have a saying that I want to live full and die empty. Every idea, every passion, everything that's in here, in my heart and my soul to get out, I will get out. And going back to again that personal mastery, I know me. I'm focused, I'm driven. If you're going in the same direction, let's go. If you're holding me up, then you got to get off the bus, buddy, because we got somewhere to go. That's just how I roll, right? And so I was just continuing to do that work and realizing not to ignore that when I'm feeling that energy drain, right? Right. When you put a good battery in the remote control with the bad battery, you know what's going to happen? That bad battery is going to drain the good battery, because now the good battery has to do twice as much work. And so I've learned to stop aligning or allowing bad batteries to align with
Mm,
my journey, because it just drains me. And so it's just the iterative process, right? This season is going to be different than next season, right? And so it's
yeah.
it's this cool part about it is this continuous process of discovery.
So you mentioned you're the mayor, which someone else gave you the title. They knighted you mayor, right? Of
Yes.
Podcast Town. What's Podcast Town? Is that your service provider where you help build, launch, grow podcast shows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we
Copy
take
that.
all the concepts and principles, right, that we've talked about, to do three things: build trust, increase authority, and grow authority
Copy that.
and influence.
All right. So, Elsie, you said 2 years ago you had a mobile recorder and you were working on your job, and on your lunch breaks or whatever, you were recording podcast interviews. Did I get that story right? Did I hear it right?
6 years.
6 years. Sorry. Copy that. So 6 years ago, you had this idea. I should start a podcast show and I should do this, and it kind of boomed into you becoming a podcast entrepreneur. Let's go back to your W-2. You're sitting there on your lunch breaks recording. What kind of recorder did you use back then?
I used a Zoom. Oh, man, you're testing my knowledge. I forgot the
If I had
model.
a buzzer, I would buzz you right now like you
You
do for
should buzz
people.
me.
I don't
You
have a
should
buzzer.
buzz me. It was a Zoom recorder. I cannot remember the model.
Was it
I'm
this one?
sorry. It was
Was it
not that one, but it's similar.
similar?
It's a little
Okay.
bit bigger, probably the older model.
Okay.
Two channels. I
Yep.
had one cable into the left channel with my on my phone, and then the other channel was on this lav type microphone. And I'm sitting in my car and I'm hiding because I don't want anybody to see me doing this in the parking lot because
Yeah.
people are nosy and they're going to tell my boss. And so my seat is all the way back and I'm sitting and it's hot because you can't have the air on because that's going to get in the recording. So there I am on lunch break. I got 30 minutes to do this show and I'm calling people up and doing my thing in a hot car on my lunch break in the middle of summer.
That is so awesome because I've done the same thing because you're trying to find the best audio, and you're like, if the car's running, first of all it's going to cost me gas, and then people are going to hear the noises. Someone for sure is going to come walk and knock on my window, or a car drives by and honks, like, and then I got to do post production and all this stuff. So in your evolution, that's where you got your start, from a lav mic into a phone recording conversations. And was that the Enterprise Now show that you?
It was the Enterprise Now show.
And that was your first podcast show that you ever created, and it's been going strong for a long time. How many episodes have you guys done?
I believe we're at 220.
What
Um,
was what was something that one of your most favorite, like, memorable, like, moments in your years of podcasting?
okay, funny story, Josh. I thought I was going to be a cool dad, right? I love to read to my kids,
Yeah.
and my daughter loved Pete the cat. And so I said, it would be great. She's going to think I am the best dad ever if I can get the author of Pete the cat on my podcast. And so I reach out to his people. He has people. And long story short, end up getting him on the show. And we did an interview with the author of Pete the cat. Cool, cool, cool moment. She didn't care, but it was huge for me because it showed me that you can do it. Like, just put it out there. You never know what could happen. And that was one of the watershed moments where I realized, okay, not only can we do this, but we could do this at a very, very high level and learn a lot in the process.
Yeah. Did Pete ever find all of his buttons?
I don't think that's the concept or the idea, Josh. I think the point is he never gives up, and no matter what happens, Brown Shoes is my favorite story. It He has a positive attitude and he keeps going.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that is the entrepreneur uh theme song, right? Just no
Yeah.
matter what happens, keep
Keep on
going.
going. What I love about this story is you had this idea that I would like to connect with someone, and you leveraged a podcast show and you made it happen. Now, he's a very well known, I think right, or someone's a very well known author who wrote the books, and uh, you had this idea that, hey, this is going to make my daughter super happy, and she didn't care, whatever, but, like, for you it was a great accomplishment because a podcast show connected you with someone that you wanted to connect with,
Mhm.
right? Someone that was important to you. How are brands using that, like leveraging podcast town and leveraging what you do? How do people leverage that to grow their business? Give us an example.
Yeah, so for me, what we try to parlay to our clients, our partners, is that same concept. Who are the people that you want to help? You want to add value to, you want to give to. We've had people come to us and they would say, "Well, LZ, I want to be number one on Apple Podcasts." And I immediately know, I go back to all the work, all the conversation that we just had, the self mastery, the self organize, and I know that's never been my MO. Maybe to a fault. I'm not about big names and flashy stuff. Like I don't really care. And so working with that type of person, not that there's anything wrong with it, there's no alignment there. And so what we focus on is building those relationships, helping our partners add value. And when you do that, business comes. When people know that you care, when they know that you're there to help them, when they need what you do, right? At some point, you've made them aware of what you do, they will call you.
Mhm.
I know that to be true in my business, and that's what we help our partners do.
Yeah. The power of conversations, the power of putting people together is so amazing, especially if you're attracting the right people. Now let's talk about this. I think a lot of brands when they're building their brand, they're just going for anything with a heartbeat and with some dollars in their pocket, right? Like who do you serve? Just like I did back in the day, anybody with money. And I'll tell you, it was like putting the I love your analogy, putting a bad battery next to a good battery. It drains. And I found that I also didn't get traction in my world until I started attracting the kind of people that I actually enjoyed working with. When you're working with a brand, and how do you know for a brand? How do you know if their ideal customer is off and they need to adjust that? What are your experiences there?
Same deal. I ask them questions like, what do you enjoy? What brings you joy? What, when you wake up in the morning, is the thing that you cannot wait to do? And if you're doing that anything less than 100%, then that's where we start. Right? We really look at. I ask tons of questions about their business, how it's structured, what their service offerings are, which ones have the highest margin. So we do the business side. We break it down, right? Because we want to know that our efforts are getting returned, right? And so we just go through. Okay, why would we spend our time here when you hate doing this and
Right.
your margins are low? Let's focus on this where the margins are high, probably because you really enjoy doing it and you're attracting people that you actually want to work with because we've done the personal mastery work. We understand ourselves and who work best with. Let's focus on these things, right? And really put our attention and focus over here. So again, I'm applying the lessons, the things that I've learned in my life, in my business, to our partners.
Yeah. So how'd you go from reclined seat in summer in your car, like doing your first couple episodes, to becoming a full-time podcast entrepreneur? Like that is an amazing jump, and a lot of people will never make that jump. I've spoken to veterans in the industry who've been doing it for 10 years and they're still trying to figure out how to make money doing podcasting. How'd you do that?
I listened. I listened to the market. I would have people on my show and I would ask them questions that gave me the answers. I'll give you make a point. When I started Enterprise Now, Josh, I literally did not care if anybody listened. My only singular goal was to get in front of business people and learn from them. I didn't even care. I told you I interviewed an author of a children's book. Like, what does that have to do with business? But through my interview with him, he taught me low cost experimentation as a concept, right? Don't spend $75,000 on your business idea because a lot of business ideas fail. Take 3,000, 5,000, test it, listen, look at the market. And then if you get traction, then you scale. Concepts like that is what I learned from interviewing people on the show. And I would ask them all the question at the end of the interview in the green room. If you were me, what would you be doing? Again, I had no goals. I didn't want to parlay it into a business. I didn't know what business I wanted. I've always known I wanted to be in business. No clue what I wanted to do. And one day, one of my guests said, I'd asked them, I said, if you were me, what would you be doing? And they said, well, Elzie, low hanging fruit, I would help people start podcasts because it's something you know how to do. And this one seems to be pretty good. Just do that. And I thought, huh, that's a great idea. Let me do that. And that kicked off the business part of Enterprise Now. And over time, I'd listen. They would come to me and they would say, well, launching it is one thing, Elsie, but man, how do you do the editing, the production, the planning, the strategy, and all the stuff? And I was like, I could help you do that. I kind of have done it because at this point I'm learning as I go, right? And I'm starting to see, okay, there's some strategy to this and ways we can build this business. And then somebody came back and they said, well, production is great, the strategy, we got that down, but how do you promote this thing and get the word out? And I thought, I mean, I'm doing a decent job at that. I'll help you do that. And then one day somebody came back and said, well, all the stuff is fine and good, Elsie, but how do I turn listeners into paying customers? And at this point, we had done it enough times, had listened enough, had asked enough questions where we were doing that as well. And so that's how it sort of became this full service, full stack brand, um, really just by listening. And again, your earlier question about storytelling, a lot of it is listening more so than being able to tell the stories, is hearing what people are saying, even when they're not saying anything, and just understanding how to put those things together. And so that's how I did it. I listened, I iterated, I failed a whole lot of times. I got back up again. I tried it, and again, I listened. I paid attention to me. I paid attention to the market, and we're continuing to build.
That is such a great question to ask people. You know, they got some time to get to know you. They got to see you in your art, which I think is super important. They got to see, and I've listened to your interview. You are a really good podcaster. Like
Thank you.
you really listen well and you have fun with the guests. Like you do a really good job at that. And after you get some time, you go, if you were me, what would you focus on? Now, for me, it took me a long time to learn to ask, right? And even ask for help or ask for feedback. I think for me, it was insecurity and ego that got in the way of me growing, and I had to fall in that hole, fall on my face, and not be able to get back for a bit, a minute. How are you? How did you learn to do that, or what did you have to overcome personally to be able to do that?
I think it was just a function of how I came up. I people say, well, you should pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And my response is, well, what if you don't have boots or straps? What do you do then, right? And that's me. I was that kid, right? I did I we couldn't afford basketball shoes to play. I my basketball shoes were my school shoes. They were the same thing,
Yeah.
And so I've always had to be innovative. I've always had to be um, to just be high energy and a go getter because nobody's going to save you,
Mm.
and that was my mentality. And so I have that chip on my shoulders, like, no, you have to make it happen. And I think the humility piece comes from my faith and just understanding that I can't do any of this stuff if it's not for God, right? If he doesn't guide me, if he doesn't give me at least a hint or a clue or some guidance, then I'm completely lost. Like I don't even want to wake up and get out of bed. If he's not going to help, then there's no point to it all. So I think that's on the humility piece is huge because I know nothing, right? I know nothing. And so I'm always curious. I'm always um, seeking to understand and seeking to get better, just a little bit better than I was yesterday, just a little bit better than I was yesterday. And the big thing for me is giving as much as possible. Like I'm competitive, but I'm a competitive giver. Like nobody's going to outgive me in value. When I walk in the room, I want you to be better because we had that interaction, right? And doing that more and more and more, people tend to give you things. They give you ideas. They connect you with people. And so I don't have to be this dog eat dog. I'm gonna outshine the competition. No, I just have to live in the truest form of who I am, which is a giver, a farmer, and give as much value, help as many people, and apparently doing that, good things happen.
Man, that's interesting. So I've got a deck of cards here that I pull out to throw a curveball into the questions. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right, so I'm going to ask this question. What is one phrase you wish you could ban from everyone's vocabulary? Like the sound of this phrase like discourages you, burns your energy, and you're upset. And it should be gone. We're going to strike it out from the dictionary. What is that phrase?
Excuses. I can't because. I didn't because.
Yeah.
Just no. It's. I have a saying. It's execution, no excuses.
Execution, no excuses. So now you're the mayor of Podcast Town, and you've built a bunch of different brands, right? I think you guys are working on more than 20 right now. Could you give us an idea of where you guys have grown to?
It's between 20 and 30 that are ongoing. Like some
Awesome, man.
people will launch with us, but they'll use other people for the production side. But at any given time, it's somewhere in there.
Yeah, super awesome. So from the car seat to this, look at how many people and brands you've impacted. What's the future look like for you, man?
I want to dump my brain out. I want to help people go on that journey that I went on, that self-discovery, right? The thought leadership, the personal mastery. Because I feel that if you do that well, especially as business owners, founders, it's hard, it's lonely, it's stressful, physically, mentally, spiritually. Um, that journey and really understanding who you are, being able to share your story, share other people's story, those aspects are going to help you be a better founder, a better entrepreneur. I really want to dig deep and share that with people and give that to the world because I feel that that's paying it forward, right? People have poured into me, people have helped me, and I want to give that to other founders. So that's the thing that lights me up in this season, really paying that forward.
Yeah, super interesting. Have you ever interviewed your family members or your daughter?
I have not. That
Yeah.
is an interesting idea. I have not.
Yeah, I interviewed my daughter one time, and it was one of my like most favorite memories of podcasting, or whatever. She was so cute. I think she was like 4 or 5 when she did it. But yeah, man, maybe do that, and the audience will get a different perspective of who you are because the daughters have seen the good, bad, the ugly. They've seen, angry dad and hungry dad, right?
Hmm.
So, as you're doing this, man, if you could interview anybody, past, present, future, well, you probably won't know who they are in the future, but past or present, live or dead, and you get an hour interview and you can interview anybody in the history of mankind, who would you interview?
Just one person.
Just one person. Yep.
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like the answer I want to give you would be very cliche, but I'll say it and I'll break your rule by saying two. Um
Go for it, man. It's your show.
I'm never getting invited back. I would love to sit down with Jesus and just ask him questions. Um, but the person that comes to mind is Magic Johnson. I would love to understand his thought process, how he took his love, his passion for the game of basketball and parlayed it into this thriving business career. Um, that was not by accident. I would love to kind of get behind the curtain and say, okay, what was your thought process, mindset? What steps did you take? And I've got some of that just listening to and watching some of his interviews, but I would really love to dig deep into that to understand how he went about that.
Yeah. Do you think you could play some one-on-one with him? Do you think you can hang with him?
Now, yeah, he's old.
Hey, that's a challenge for anybody who knows him out there. We got a one-on-one challenge in a post interview.
Yeah.
What questions would you ask Jesus? If you could ask him like three questions, and he would just give you honest, very clear answers. Well, what one or two questions would you ask him?
I would ask him why why did he come when he did? Why that point in history? Because he could have come at any point,
Yeah.
but he decided for whatever reason to come when he did that precise moment. Because I happen to believe that that was a very well thought out, well planned, intentional time period. I would ask him that. I would ask him, um, what is the number one thing that he enjoys as a human.
Wow.
Like I couldn't even imagine Jesus like playing basketball or football. Like what would he be into? That would be interesting to me. And then I would ask him um if he could give one piece of wisdom, what would that be?
Hmm. That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. What question do you think he'd ask you?
Hmm.
Because I mean, he knows everything, right? He knows what you're going to say. And I know
Yeah.
that this is a show about deals, but I love to hear the stories behind deal makers. What makes them tick? What makes them
Yeah.
ticked off? I like how you said that. So what
Yeah.
question do you think he'd ask you?
I kind of think he would ask me, why do I hold back? Why do I not go 100%?
Hmm.
Because if we're honest with ourselves, we don't go 100%. We like to think we do, but there's fear in there. There's all kind of stuff that
Yeah.
prevents us from going 100%. I think you would want to know, why don't you go 100%?
What would your answer be?
Fear will probably be a part of it. Fear, um, and as ironic as this sounds, is again, we want to say that, oh yeah, I trust you 100%, but we don't. We don't. We don't. So that's part of it. It's like you know that he's got you, but we don't go 100%.
Man, that's so true. That is so true. And if I did some honest self reflection, I would say, fear of failing again, right? I've had a lot of failures, like that idea of, man, if I really give it my all, I won't have any energy to get back up, right? Man, super interesting, super thoughtful. You have spent a tremendous amount of time digging deep inside, haven't you?
I try to, and again, it's a daily exercise, and sometimes it's not pretty, sometimes it's not easy, but I've found that it's helped me become a better father, a better friend, and a better businessman.
Cool. So for B2B brands out there, brand to brand businesses, right, out there who are looking to explore podcasting and to see if it's a good fit, or maybe to expand what they've got, or maybe they've gotten to the point in their podcast where they're ready to hand over production and focus on, just putting deals together. What's a good place for people to connect with you and do a deal?
The best place is the website, podcasttown.net. Or I'm always on my phone and available via email at mayor@podcasttown.net.
Yeah, super cool. During this interview, there's probably some questions that I should have asked you about podcasting or about you or about your services that I screwed up and I did not ask you. What question should I have asked you?
I would ask me, what do I love most about podcasting?
Elsie, man, what do you love most about podcasting?
The thing that I love the most is the people, the relationship. The folks that I've had the opportunity to meet over this 6.5 years, the some people have started businesses from the time we first met, and now their businesses are thriving, and some people have pivoted and are doing other things, and it's always great to kind of see, even on a personal level, where people were when we talked to where they are now, seeing that journey, sharing that journey with them. And again, the business stuff happens. That stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
Organically, when you show up authentically and you're giving value, that stuff is going to happen. So, but the thing that I love the most is the people, man, and just really just taking part in their journey.
Yeah. I got a follow up question. I thought that was going to be the last one, but you've launched a bunch of different podcast shows. You've done a tremendous amount of production for other people. What do you think is the biggest stumbling point for people to, start a show, start a podcast? Especially, man, it makes sense. It's been on their mind, it's been on their heart for a long period of time. They want to start a podcast. What's the biggest stumbling block to starting a podcast show?
I would say there's a couple. A lot of people have imposter syndrome. They don't think that anybody will listen to them, or that they have anything of value to say. The other big one is the technical aspects. It's gotten easier. When I first started, it was not as easy as it is now. So I hear a lot of people say that that's a hang up. And I would say perception and mindset would be the other thing, because people think that it's crowded, just because podcasting is popular now. But I always tell people, if you look at how many blogs there are or how many YouTube channels there are, it's not even close. It's almost 800 to 1. Don't quote me on that, but it's not saturated. But the analogy that I give people is when I graduated college with a degree in electronic systems technologies, there were hundreds of thousands of other people who also had the similar or the same degree. And not one time did it cross my mind that I would not get a job. Why? Because nobody had the life experience. Nobody was as cool as me. Nobody had my story. And nobody was going to approach that job like I was. And so I always tell people that's the same deal with your podcast. Nobody's going to have your perspective. Nobody's going to have your story. Nobody's going to tell your story like you are. Nobody's going to make the connections like you are. So have that perspective when you're launching, and understand that people do want to hear what you have to say. You are worth listening to. You do have value to give to the business world. You're worth it, and you can nail this thing. So some of that is coaching and just helping people get over those mental blocks.
Yeah, totally. Super awesome. Super awesome. So, man, one more time, where can people go to connect with you?
Website, podcasttown.net, or shoot me an email at mayor@podcasttown.net.
Awesome. Fellow deal makers in the audience, if you are a brand to brand business and you're thinking about launching a podcast show, head on over to podcasttown.net, fill out a quick form, get in contact with Elzie and his team. Did I say that right? .net, right? Awesome.
You got it.
Man, boom. And, connect. And when you do launch your show with Elzie, hit me back up and we'll help promote it here on this show, and we'll share your journey. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. If you're working on a deal or looking for a deal and you want to talk about it here on this show, head over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, and maybe we'll get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. Love you guys.